The steel groaned beneath my feet as I paced the bridge of the USS Intrepid. A cacophony of beeps and alarms filled the air, a constant reminder that something was wrong, terribly wrong. My crew stood at their stations, their faces mirroring my own unease. We were alone in the middle of the Pacific, a lone warship adrift in a sea of uncertainty. My name is Captain Alex Mason, and I've spent the better part of my life in the service of the United States Navy. I've seen my share of storms and skirmishes, but nothing could have prepared me for what we were facing now. Our sonar had picked up an energy signature unlike anything we'd ever encountered before. It was massive, pulsating, and emanating from deep within the Earth's core. I remember the day it all started, a day that would forever change our understanding of the universe. We were on a routine patrol, our sonar sweeping the ocean depths, when suddenly, the screen lit up like a Christmas tree. The signal was so strong it nearly overloaded our systems. I called for the sonar operator, a young ensign named Ramirez, to run a diagnostic. "Captain," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper, I think you better see this." I rushed over to his station, my heart pounding in my chest. On the screen, a massive red blob pulsed ominously, its tendrils reaching out towards the surface. It was like a giant heart beating beneath the ocean floor. "What the hell is that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ramirez shook his head, his face pale. "I don't know, sir. I've never seen anything like it." I ordered him to run a full analysis, but the results only deepened the mystery. The energy signature was unlike anything we had ever encountered before. It was organic, yet it seemed to defy all known laws of physics. As the hours turned into days, the signal grew stronger, and the tension on the ship grew thicker. The crew was on edge, their whispers echoing through the corridors. I tried to maintain a sense of calm, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the brink of a discovery that would change everything. I decided to call in the experts, a team of scientists from DARPA. They arrived by helicopter, their faces grim as they stepped onto the bridge. I briefed them on the situation, showing them the sonar readings and the analysis. They listened intently, their eyes widening as they absorbed the information. "Captain," one of them said, a woman named Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, "I believe you have stumbled upon something extraordinary. This energy signature is unlike anything we have ever seen before. It's alien." Her words hung in the air, a chilling reminder that we were not alone in the universe. I looked at my crew, their faces pale and drawn. We were sailors, not scientists, but we knew enough to understand the implications of what we had found. We continued to monitor the signal, hoping to learn more about its origin and purpose. We tried to communicate with it, but our messages were met with silence. The signal remained a mystery, a silent threat lurking beneath the waves. Then, one night, everything changed. The signal intensified, its pulsations growing stronger and faster. The ship began to shake, its metal frame creaking and groaning. The alarms blared, their shrill cries echoing through the ship. I rushed to the bridge, my heart pounding in my chest. The sonar screen was ablaze, the red blob pulsing like a strobe light. It was as if the signal was trying to tell us something, to warn us of an impending danger. And then, it happened. The ocean floor erupted, a massive column of water shooting into the sky. The ship lurched violently, its hull scraping against the jagged rocks below. The crew was thrown to the deck, their cries of pain and fear filling the air. I struggled to my feet, grabbing onto a railing for support. I looked out the window, my eyes widening in horror. A giant object was rising from the ocean, its metallic surface gleaming in the moonlight. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before, a monstrous vessel that dwarfed our ship. I knew then that our worst fears had been realized. We were not alone in the universe, and the aliens had come for us. The Intrepid groaned and listed as we scrambled to assess the damage and regain control. The giant vessel, its silhouette a jagged scar against the night sky, hovered menacingly above us. Its surface pulsed with an eerie light, casting an unsettling glow on the turbulent waters below. Through the chaos, I barked orders, my voice barely audible over the din of alarms and the roar of the storm that had seemingly materialized out of nowhere. Our weapons systems were offline, communication was down, and we were at the mercy of this colossal alien entity. Fear gnawed at my gut, but I couldn't let it show. As captain, it was my duty to maintain order and protect my crew, even in the face of the unknown. I looked to my officers, their faces etched with a mixture of terror and resolve. We were in this together, and we would face whatever came next as a team. Suddenly, the alien vessel began to move, its massive form gliding through the air with an unsettling grace. It circled our ship, its pulsating lights casting grotesque shadows on the deck. It was as if it was studying us, analyzing our weaknesses, preparing for an attack. Then, without warning, it descended upon us, its shadow engulfing the Intrepid in a suffocating darkness. A wave of intense heat washed over us, the air growing thick and heavy. The metal of our ship groaned and buckled under the immense pressure, the sound echoing through the corridors like a death knell. Through the viewport, I saw a sight that would forever be etched into my memory. The alien vessel had opened a massive hatch, revealing a gaping maw filled with pulsating energy. It was like staring into the heart of a star, a blinding vortex of raw power. Before I could react, a beam of energy erupted from the maw, slamming into the Intrepid with the force of 1,000 suns. The ship shuddered violently, its hull breached, its systems failing. Water rushed in, flooding the lower decks, plunging the ship into darkness. I was thrown against the bulkhead, my head slamming against the metal. I could taste blood in my mouth, my vision blurring. Through the haze, I saw my crew fighting for their lives, battling the rising water, desperately trying to repair the damage. But it was no use. The Intrepid was dying, its once proud form now a broken wreck. As the water rose, I knew that our time was running out. I ordered an evacuation, my voice barely a croak. The lifeboats were launched, their tiny forms bobbing on the turbulent waves. I watched as my crew scrambled aboard, their faces pale and drawn. I knew that many of them would not survive this ordeal, but I prayed that at least some would make it back to shore, to tell the world what we had encountered. As the last lifeboat pulled away, I turned back to the bridge, my heart heavy with sorrow. The Intrepid was my home, my family, and I couldn't bear to leave her. But I knew that I had to. My duty was to my crew, and they needed me to lead them to safety. I made my way to the escape pod, my legs unsteady, my head throbbing. I strapped myself in, my fingers fumbling with the controls. I took one last look at the bridge, the flickering lights, the abandoned consoles, the silent alarms. It was a sight that would haunt my dreams forever. I launched the pod, its engines sputtering to life. I felt a lurch as it was ejected from the dying ship, soaring into the night sky. I looked back, my heart aching as I watched the Intrepid sink beneath the waves, its lights disappearing into the dark abyss. The alien vessel hovered above, its silhouette a menacing reminder of the power we had faced. It made no move to stop us, as if it had no interest in our escape. Perhaps it had already achieved its goal, whatever that may be. As I drifted through the storm, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held. What would become of Earth now that the aliens had revealed themselves? Would we be able to defend ourselves against this advanced civilization? Or were we doomed to extinction? These questions swirled in my mind, their answers lost in the darkness. But one thing was certain, the world would never be the same. We had crossed a threshold, a point of no return. The age of innocence was over, and the age of aliens had begun. The escape pod, a battered metal coffin, bobbed violently in the churning sea. The storm raged on, its fury mirroring my own inner turmoil. I clung to the controls, my knuckles white, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The adrenaline that had fueled my escape was now fading, replaced by exhaustion and a deep sense of despair. As the pod drifted aimlessly, I tried to assess my situation. I was alone, injured, and adrift in the middle of the Pacific. My ship was gone, my crew scattered, their fate unknown. The world as I knew it had been irrevocably shattered, replaced by a terrifying new reality where alien invaders lurked beneath the waves. A wave of nausea washed over me, my stomach churning. I fought back the urge to vomit, clinging to the last shreds of my composure. I knew that I couldn't give up, that I had to find a way to survive, to warn the world of the impending threat. But how? I had no communication, no way to contact the outside world. The escape pod was equipped with a basic distress beacon, but it was doubtful that anyone would pick up the signal in this remote part of the ocean. As the hours dragged on, my hope dwindled. The storm showed no signs of abating, and the pod was taking on water. I knew that it was only a matter of time before it succumbed to the elements, dragging me down to a watery grave. Just when I thought all was lost, a faint light appeared on the horizon. At first, I dismissed it as a hallucination, a cruel trick of my exhausted mind. But as it grew brighter, I realized that it was real, a beacon of hope in the vast darkness. I steered the pod towards the light, my heart pounding with renewed hope. As I drew closer, I could make out the silhouette of a ship, its lights twinkling in the distance. It was a fishing trawler, its weathered hull battling the relentless waves. I fired the distress beacon, its signal piercing the night sky. To my relief, the trawler responded, its searchlights scanning the ocean. Soon they spotted my pod, and a rescue boat was lowered into the water. As I was hauled aboard the trawler, I could barely contain my emotions. I was safe, alive, against all odds. I was greeted by the captain, a grizzled old sea dog with a weathered face and kind eyes. He listened intently as I recounted my ordeal, his expression growing graver with each passing moment. He offered me food and water, a warm bunk, and a sympathetic ear. I told him everything, about the Intrepid, the alien vessel, the attack, the escape. He listened in stunned silence, his eyes wide with disbelief. When I had finished, he looked at me with a mixture of awe and pity. "Son," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "you've seen things that no man should ever have to see." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. I knew that I had been through hell, but I also knew that I had a duty to perform. I had to warn the world of the impending invasion, to prepare them for the fight of their lives. But first, I needed to rest, to heal, to gather my strength. The captain assured me that he would contact the authorities, that my story would be heard. I could only hope that it wouldn't be too late. As I drifted off to sleep, a thought occurred to me, a chilling realization that sent shivers down my spine. The aliens had attacked the Intrepid, but they had made no move to stop my escape. Why? What was their purpose? What did they want from us? I didn't have the answers, but I knew that I would soon find out. The aliens were here, and they weren't leaving without a fight. The battle for Earth had begun. And just then, I heard an eerie noise coming from the belly of the ship. I followed it and looked through a hole in the floor. I couldn't believe my eyes. The entire inside of the ship was glowing and pulsating the same way that alien ship had glowed. As the light grew stronger, I could make out the form of a giant alien soldier emerging. The ship wasn't just here to help, it was the alien ship, shape-shifted into a normal-looking fishing trawler. I knew then that this was only the beginning. Adrenaline surged through my veins, eclipsing the exhaustion that had weighed me down. I scrambled to my feet, the creaking of the metal floor beneath me barely registering over the pounding of my heart. My mind raced, frantically searching for a way out of this nightmare. I knew I couldn't face this creature head-on, it was far too powerful, too alien. I crawled back towards the sleeping quarters, my movements swift and silent. My eyes darted around the room, searching for anything that could serve as a weapon. A fire extinguisher caught my eye, its red cylinder gleaming in the dim light. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. With the extinguisher in hand, I crept back towards the hole in the floor, my heart thrumming in my chest. I peered through the gap, my breath held in anticipation. The creature was still emerging, its form now fully visible. It was a grotesque mockery of a human, its skin a sickly green, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. Its limbs were elongated, ending in sharp claws, and its mouth was filled with razor-sharp teeth. As it stepped onto the deck, I knew I had to act. I took a deep breath, summoning all my courage, and swung the extinguisher with all my might, aiming for its head. The metal cylinder connected with a sickening thud, the creature letting out a guttural roar of surprise and pain. It stumbled back, clutching its head, its eyes narrowing in fury. I knew I had only bought myself a few precious seconds, but it was enough. I turned and ran, my legs pumping, my lungs burning. I raced through the labyrinthine corridors of the ship, my heart pounding in my ears. The creature was hot on my heels, its heavy footsteps echoing through the ship. I could hear its enraged roars, its claws scraping against the metal walls. I knew that if it caught me, it would be the end. Desperation fueled my flight. I leapt over obstacles, ducked under low-hanging pipes, and squeezed through narrow passageways. I had no idea where I was going, but I knew I had to keep moving, to put as much distance between myself and the monster as possible. I burst onto the deck, the wind whipping at my clothes, the rain stinging my face. I looked around frantically, searching for an escape route. The trawler was surrounded by a vast expanse of ocean, the waves crashing against its hull. There was nowhere to go. Suddenly, a glint of metal caught my eye. It was a lifeboat, its white hull gleaming in the moonlight. It was my only chance. I sprinted towards it, my legs aching, my lungs screaming for air. I reached the lifeboat, my fingers fumbling with the latch. I threw open the hatch, diving inside just as the creature emerged from the ship, its eyes burning with hatred. I slammed the hatch shut, locking it in place. Through the porthole, I watched as the creature raged, its claws raking at the hull, its teeth gnashing in frustration. It let out a deafening roar, its fury shaking the very foundations of the ship. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. The ship, its lights still pulsating, began to transform, its hull shimmering and warping. Within seconds, it had reverted to its original form, the massive alien vessel that had destroyed the Intrepid. I watched in horror as it rose into the air, its engines roaring, its lights casting an eerie glow on the turbulent waters. It hovered for a moment, as if contemplating its next move, then shot off into the night sky, disappearing into the clouds. I was left alone, adrift in the lifeboat, the storm still raging around me. But I was alive, and I had a story to tell, a warning to deliver. I knew that the aliens were here, and they were not leaving without a fight. The battle for Earth had only just begun. The lifeboat tossed and turned in the relentless waves, its small frame a fragile refuge against the wrath of the ocean. I huddled inside, shivering despite the humid air, my clothes soaked through from the rain and seawater. The storm continued to rage, its fury echoing the turmoil within my own soul. The adrenaline that had fueled my escape was now a distant memory, replaced by a bone-deep weariness and a gnawing sense of despair. I was alone, lost, and hunted by an alien force far beyond my comprehension. My body ached, my wounds throbbed, and my mind was haunted by the horrors I had witnessed. Yet, even amidst the darkness, a flicker of defiance remained. I had survived, against all odds. I had escaped the clutches of the aliens, and I had a story to tell, a warning to deliver. The world needed to know the truth, to prepare for the coming storm. I scanned the horizon, hoping to spot a sign of rescue, but the ocean stretched out endlessly, its vastness a stark reminder of my isolation. The sun began to rise, casting a pale light on the turbulent waters. The storm clouds parted, revealing a glimpse of blue sky, a cruel mockery of hope. As the hours passed, my thirst grew unbearable. The lifeboat's meager supplies had been depleted, and the rain offered no relief. My lips cracked, my throat burned, and my head throbbed with dehydration. I knew that if I didn't find water soon, I would succumb to the elements. Just when I thought I couldn't endure another moment, a miracle occurred. A flock of seabirds appeared overhead, their cries echoing across the waves. I watched them with a mixture of fascination and hope. Where there were birds, there had to be fish, and where there were fish, there was a chance of finding land. I followed the birds, my eyes fixed on their graceful flight. They led me towards a distant island, its silhouette barely visible on the horizon. As I drew closer, I could make out its lush greenery, its white sandy beaches, and its towering palm trees. It was a paradise, a haven in the midst of chaos. With renewed energy, I paddled towards the island, my arms aching, my heart filled with hope. As I approached the shore, I could hear the gentle lapping of waves against the sand, the soothing sound a welcome contrast to the roar of the storm. I dragged the lifeboat onto the beach, my legs wobbling beneath me. I collapsed onto the sand, my body finally giving in to exhaustion. I closed my eyes, the warmth of the sun on my face a welcome respite from the cold, wet darkness of the lifeboat. When I awoke, the sun was high in the sky. I sat up, stretching my cramped muscles. The island was even more beautiful than I had imagined, its air filled with the sweet scent of tropical flowers, its shores teeming with colorful marine life. But I knew that I couldn't stay here. I had to find a way to contact the outside world, to warn them of the alien threat. I scanned the island, searching for any sign of civilization. As I explored, I stumbled upon a small village, nestled among the palm trees. Its inhabitants, a peaceful tribe of fishermen, welcomed me with open arms. They offered me food, shelter, and friendship. I spent several days among them, learning their customs, their language, their way of life. They were a simple people, living in harmony with nature, untouched by the modern world. I told them my story, about the Intrepid, the aliens, the attack. They listened with rapt attention, their faces etched with concern. They had never encountered outsiders before, and my tale filled them with a mixture of awe and fear. They offered to help me, to build a raft, to send me on my way. I was grateful for their kindness, but I knew that time was of the essence. I had to reach civilization as soon as possible. Then, one day, a group of strangers arrived on the island. They were scientists, explorers, searching for rare plant specimens. They had stumbled upon the island by chance, their ship having been blown off course by the same storm that had destroyed the Intrepid. I approached them, my heart pounding with excitement. I told them my story, my words tumbling out in a rush. They listened with growing alarm, their faces mirroring my own sense of urgency. They agreed to help me, to take me back to civilization, to share my warning with the world. We set sail the next day, leaving behind the peaceful island and the kind people who had saved my life. As we journeyed across the vast ocean, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the aliens were aware of my escape and were tracking my every move. But I knew that I couldn't give up, that I had to keep fighting, to warn the world of the impending danger. The fate of humanity rested on my shoulders, and I was determined to fulfill my duty, no matter the cost. The scientists aboard the research vessel, the Aurora, listened to my story with a mixture of fascination and horror. Dr. Helena Clark, a renowned astrophysicist with piercing blue eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, was particularly intrigued. She peppered me with questions about the alien vessel, its technology, its motives. "Captain Mason," she said, her voice laced with a hint of excitement, "your testimony is extraordinary. If true, it could revolutionize our understanding of the universe." I nodded, the weight of my responsibility heavy on my shoulders. "It's true, Dr. Clark. I saw it with my own eyes. The aliens are here, and they're not friendly." Dr. Clark exchanged a knowing glance with her colleagues, a team of experts in various scientific fields. They huddled together, their voices low, their expressions grave. After a moment, Dr. Clark turned back to me, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Captain Mason," she said, "we believe you. And we're going to help you warn the world." With the Aurora's advanced communication systems, we contacted the authorities, relaying my story to the highest levels of government. The response was swift and decisive. A global task force was assembled, uniting the world's military forces, scientific minds, and intelligence agencies. We were not alone in this fight. The Aurora changed course, heading towards the nearest naval base. As we sailed, I worked tirelessly with the scientists, analyzing the data I had collected from the Intrepid, trying to decipher the aliens' technology and predict their next move. The days turned into nights, the ship's engines thrumming a constant rhythm, the tension aboard growing thicker with each passing hour. We knew that the aliens would not remain idle for long. They had made their presence known, and they would soon strike again. One evening, as I stood on the deck, gazing out at the starlit sky, Dr. Clark approached me, a troubled look on her face. "Captain Mason," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "we've received a disturbing transmission from the task force." My heart sank. "What is it?" I asked, dreading the answer. Dr. Clark hesitated, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. "The aliens have attacked again," she said. "They've targeted major cities around the globe." A wave of nausea washed over me, my legs threatening to give way. "How bad is it?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Dr. Clark's eyes filled with tears. It's catastrophic. The devastation is unimaginable." I closed my eyes, the images of destruction flashing through my mind. The aliens were waging war on humanity, and we were losing. But we would not surrender. We would fight back, with every ounce of strength, every shred of courage we could muster. We would not go down without a fight. As we raced towards the naval base, a sense of grim determination settled over the Aurora. We knew that the fate of the world hung in the balance. And then, as we approached the coast, a chilling sight met our eyes. The sky was ablaze with an eerie green light, the ocean churning with a monstrous force. A massive object rose from the depths, its silhouette a terrifying echo of the alien vessel that had destroyed the Intrepid. It was larger, more powerful, more menacing than anything I had ever seen before. It was the aliens' mothership, and it had come to finish what it had started. The final battle for Earth was about to begin.